We're in Bava Kama Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, and the Gemara is talking about Nifritz Balayla when an animal escapes from a corral. And Rabbah said, "Hushachatra b'lo chatra b'chayav." The Gemara asked, "Techilato, what's the case? Kota barua or kota ra'ua? If it's ra'ua, my ki chatra, my patur, Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones." And the Gemara clearly is referring to a well-known concept. I understand if it's Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones patur in general. That's why you're patur here. But according to the view that in general Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones is chayav, why would you be patur here? So the Gemara clearly is referencing a concept that's been established in another Gemara before of Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones. And I think at this point we'll pause and see what this concept actually is. To start our research, we'll look at the little chet, which refers to the Mesorah Hashas on our daf, all the way up in the top right corner. And here we have the Mesorah Hashas. This little chet, Rashi print with the parenthesis, refers to this identical chet with the parenthesis. And here Rashi says Le'el Chaf Aleph Amud. The Mesorah Hashas says Le'el Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, which means that this appears earlier in Bava Kama Chaf Aleph Amud Bet. Vishin Nun Visham Nisman, and there in Bava Kama Chaf Aleph Amud Bet Nisman, the Mesorah Hashas tells you where else it appears, and that's because it appears in many places. Here we have the Gemara Bava Kama Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, and here is a similar Gemara to our Gemara. Hanicha lamanda amar Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones patur el lamanda amar chayav ma'ik l'meimer. In a completely different context, the Gemara relates this machloket as machloket lamanda amar Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones patur chayav. And here the little dalid refers to the Mesorah Hashas number dalid l'kama nun vav amud aleph. That's our case, and has the additional nun chet amud aleph, as well as Bava Metzia, Laman Vav Amud Bet, Mem Bet Amud Aleph, Tzadik Gimel Amud Bet. Coming back to our Gemara, we look when the Gemara introduces Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones. Rashi says Pluktehi v'sofa mafkid. Rashi says, "Oh, you're not familiar with Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones? Let me just fill you in. It's a machloket in Perek HaMafkid, which is the Perek above Metzia." Bava Metzia Daf Mem Bet Amud Aleph. Trei Lishnei Deshas Alibad Rabbi Yosef. There are two views in the Gemara within Rabbi Yosef, but his view is on this general issue of Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones. Now we know that Rashi had a lot of options. Why does he choose Hamafkid Bava Metzia Mem Bet over the other sources to quote? Because clearly, in the other cases, the Gemara was just referring to this concept like they're doing in our Gemara, Hanicha Lamanda Amar, referring to the Machloket. In Bava Metzia, the Machloket is actually presented to us. And here's the Gemara in Bava Metzia, the relevant excerpt. Hahu Gavra, Da'afkid Zuze Gabe Chavrei, a person, the Gemara says, Bava Metzia, gave his friend something, zuzim, money to watch for him. The friend, or the other person, otvinhu b'tzrifa de'orvini, put it into a tzrifa de'orvini. What's a tzrifa de'orvini? Rashi here in Bava Metzia explains, bayit katana gul kimin kova, a small hut shaped like a hat, sha'osin tzayadei ofot la'arov, that people who are trying to catch birds make them as traps, or when they're trapping the birds. De'orvini shala ravahaya, it's made out of willows. So he hides who would think the money would be hidden in this tree for De'orvini in this little hut? So the friend puts it in the hut. And what happens? Lo and behold, Ignuv, the money is stolen. Someone chances upon it and steals it. Omar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef Paskins. Afal gav de le'inyan ganve netirutahi. Even though this is considered proper protection from thieves, le'inyan nura pshiutahi. It's negligent because of the fear of it burning. This hut was very flammable. It was all dry straw and twigs and wood. And it was a real hazard to hide the money there because it could have been burnt up in a flash. Hava Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones chayav. This is Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones, which is chayav. So, in other words, the Techila, the beginning, what you actually did at the outset was negligent. You put it somewhere where there's a real risk of it burning. V'sofa ba'ones, but in the end, it did not get burnt. It was actually an ones, an unexpected mishap. A thief completely unexpectedly found it there. But you are chayav, Rav Yosef says, because the bottom line is that you were negligent, you were not a good watchman, you did not watch it properly, and in the end it got lost. You're responsible for the losses since you were negligent as a watchman. V'ikadami, and others say, or another version of Rav Yosef, avagav de inyan nora pshiutahi, even though it's negligent in respect to the fire, le'inyan ganvei nitirutahi, it's actually proper protection from thieves, utchilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones patur, and you are patur. V'hilchata, and the Gemara concludes, Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones chayav, that you are chayav. This is a psak of the Gemara, but the Gemara often does not relate to this line of psak, and refers to this issue of Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones as the machloket within Rabbi Yosef in the Gemara in Perek Hamafkid. Bava Metzia is not dealing with torts, it's not talking about damages, we're talking about the responsibilities of a watchman, of a shomer. And the responsibility of a shomer is primarily to be shomer, to watch it properly. If he's negligent, he's poshea, he's responsible for damages that result. If it's ones, if he was not negligent but an unexpected mishap occurred, then he is patur in general, not responsible. Here it's Techilato BePeshia v'sofa ba'ones, and the machloket is whether this is considered to be pshia or ones. The Gemara in Bava Kama, in our sugya, relates to this machloket. The Gemara itself brings it up and applies it to the case of damages. Even though damages in general, we would say that you're responsible even for ones, even for things out of your control. When it comes to damages, a person is responsible even when it's by accident, even by ones, adamu ali olam. But when it comes to the responsibility of the damages of your animal, of your property, then it becomes a little bit more like a shomer. You're responsible to watch and protect it to make sure it doesn't do anything dangerous. And your responsibility relates to the level of pshia, of negligence. If you're negligent, you're responsible. If it's ones, you're exempt. So the same thing would apply here, the Gemara says. If you put the animal behind a kolta re'ua, behind a rickety fence, one that's expected to possibly fall down, dangerous situation, and what happened was, it was chatra. An unexpected event happened. The animal, which is not expected for a cattle, for sheep, to dig up a foundation of a wall, actually dig up the dirt around the bottom of the wall and cause it to fall down. You were negligent. In the end, an onus happens.